All right, guys, this lesson is all about the Pythagorean Theorem on the first 2 pages. And then on the third page, we start talking about how to classify triangles. So here we go. All right, so when you use Pythagorean Theorem, guys, you're going to use this to find missing side of a right triangle. Remember, a right triangle has to have a 90 in it. If you check out the diagram to the left over here, sides A and B are called the legs. So A is a leg and B is a leg. C is your hypotenuse. And we'll just abbreviate that H by P for hypotenuse. And then for any triangle, here is your formula to find a missing side. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right. So for these numbers, for the examples 1 through 10, guys, basically let's label the pieces and then we'll kind of figure out what's missing here. So first I find the 90. I know across the 90 is always the hypotenuse, which would mean the pieces attached to the 90 are the legs. All right. So we're missing the C piece. Remember, A and B are the legs, and C is the hypotenuse. So using the formula, plug in the legs. So we'd have 8 squared plus 13 squared equals C squared. In the calculator, I type in 8 squared plus 13 squared, and I get 233. And then I have to square root to get rid of the square around the C. So when you type in square root 233, that comes out to be 15.3. If I look at number 2, the piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse, and that's what I'm missing. Pieces attached to 90 are your legs. So same thing as number 1, you're missing the hypotenuse, so plug in your 2 legs. 22 squared plus 27 squared equals C squared. Type in this piece right here into the calc, and that gives you 1213. Square root to get rid of the square. That comes out to be 34.8. Number 3. Piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse. We have that. But in this case, we're missing one of the legs, right? And this can be A or B. It doesn't matter if you're missing the A or if you want to call it B. It does not matter. So plug in the formula. I'll just call this the A piece, that B, and there's your C as usual. X squared plus 7 squared equals 9 squared. I'm going to subtract over the 7 squared. So when I do that, if I type in 9 squared, so 9 squared minus 7 squared comes out to be 32. Then I got to square root that. That comes out to be 5.7. Number 4, piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse. These guys are your legs. So once again, we're missing a leg. So just like number 3, x squared plus 19.1 squared equals 30.5 squared. Subtract over the 19.1 squared. That comes out to be 565.44. Square root that. That comes out to be 23.8. So the missing leg is 23.8. Number 5, here's your 90. The piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse. The piece next to me is a leg, and this piece down here is also a leg, but I got to figure out this distance. If you notice, we have congruent sides, which means we're going to have congruent base pieces. So if the whole thing is 22, each of these have to be 11. So here's my triangle right here. Got the hypotenuse, missing a leg, just like 3 and 4. Set it up. X squared plus 11 squared is 24 squared. Subtract over the 11 squared. That comes out to be 455. Square root that. The answer is 21.3. Number 6. Little tricky. You probably will not see one like this on a quiz, but I'm going to give it a shot. We can work with this one. I'm going to draw a line straight up and down here. There's my 90. If this piece over here is x length. This piece right here also has to be x length. The question is, how long are these two pieces up here? Well, if this piece is 5, that piece has to be 5. If the whole thing is 18, what's left for this would be then 13. Just subtract. 18 minus 5 is 13. So now here is the triangle. This guy right here. Piece across the 90's hypotenuse. Here's a leg. Here's a leg. So you're missing legs. So just like numbers 5, 4, and 3, the setup is the same. X squared plus 13 squared is 16 squared. Subtract the 13 squared over. That gives me 87. Square root the 87. That comes out to be 9.3. Number 7. Kind of a tricky piece. We got to find both of these. If I want to find this total distance, I got to find this piece we'll call A, and this piece down here we'll call B. So you're going to have two problems to figure out that total length. So first we'll focus on the left side. Piece across the 90's hypotenuse. Two pieces touched in the 90 are your legs, so we're missing a leg right here. So setup, I would go a squared plus 12 squared equals 14 squared. Subtract over the 12 squared. That gives me 52. Then square root 52 comes out to be 7.2. So that piece right there, 7.2. But another equation, we got to figure out this piece right here. A piece across the 90's hypotenuse, and your legs touch the 90. So once again, I'm missing a leg right here. So the equation will b squared plus 12 squared equals 29 squared. Subtract 12 squared over. That gives you 697. Square root that. Answer comes out to be 26.4. And then if you add these two answers up to get the total length, that comes out to be 33.6. So total length on that bottom piece, this piece plus that piece, 30.6. Back page. Couple more trickier ones. You probably won't see these on a quiz, but I had some good practice for you. All right, in order to find x on number 8, I got to find this piece right here first. I'll call it y. So let's work with this triangle first, and then I'll work with this one second. So once again, kind of two problems here. So working down here, piece across the 90's hypotenuse, 10 is a leg, y is a leg. So you're missing a leg this time. So equation, y squared plus 10 squared is 25 squared. Subtract the 10 squared over. That gives me 525. Square root 525 comes out to be 22.9. So this piece right here is 22.9. Okay, look at the top equation. Piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse. X is a leg, and this piece is still a leg. So 22.9 is still a leg over here. So you're missing a leg, so x squared plus 22.9 squared is 28 squared. Subtract over the 22.9 squared. That gives me 259.59. Square root that. Answer 16.1. All right, number 9. So if I know this piece is x, I know this piece is x over here. Now figuring out the lengths down here. From here to here is 26. So from here to here has to be 26. And then 40 minus 26, you're left with 14, right? So I got these two pieces have to add up to 14, and they're also congruent. So 14 divided by 2 would be 7. So now I have my triangle right here. Label the pieces across the 90's hypotenuse. 7 is a leg. X is a leg. So we are missing a leg from the equation. X squared plus 7 squared is 20 squared. Subtract the 7 squared over. That gives me 351. Square root that. 18.7. 10 to 13, a couple applications. It says draw a picture, solve for the missing side, round to the nearest tenth. All right. A roofer leaned a 16-foot ladder against a house. All right. $16-foot ladder against a house. Got it. If the base of the ladder is 5 feet from the house, so your base, 5 feet. How high up the house does the ladder reach? We don't know. We call that X. There's my 90. Labeling the pieces. Piece across the 90 is hypotenuse. X is a leg. 5 is a leg. Equation, X squared plus 5 squared is 16 squared. Subtract the 5 squared over, that's 231. Square root that, X is 15.2. Number 11, Kurt is building a rectangular deck. If the dimensions of the deck are 10 by 23, what is the length of the diagonal of the deck? I don't know that. Call it H. Piece across the 90 is your hypotenuse. 10 is a leg, 23 is a leg. So you're missing the hypotenuse this time. 10 squared plus 23 squared is H squared. In the calc, I type this in right here. That comes out to be 629. Square root. Diagonal comes out to be 25.1. Number 12. Ashley jogged 3.4 miles east, then 5.7 miles south. How far is Ashley from her starting point? We don't know. Let's call it X. Here's my 90. Label the pieces. X is hypotenuse, and those are your legs. So once again, we're missing a hypotenuse. So 3.4 squared plus 5.7 squared is X squared, or H squared, whatever. Type that in right there. That comes out to be 44.05. Square root. And the answer comes out to be 6.6. Number 13, a 31-foot support wire is attached from the top of a 25-foot telephone pole to a point in the ground. Pole, 25 feet. Wire attached to the ground, 31 feet. How far from the pole's base does the wire meet the ground? Call it X. There's my 90. Piece across is hypotenuse. X is a leg. 25 is a leg. You are missing a leg. X squared plus 25 squared is 31 squared. Subtract over the 25 squared gives you 336. Square root that, 18.3. One more page. All right, last page, kind of quick, guys. It talks about how to classify a triangle. It's either going to be a right, obtuse, or an acute triangle. So here's how it kind of works. If c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, you have a right. If c squared is bigger than a squared plus b squared, you have an obtuse. If c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, you have an acute. All right. And kind of know, guys, it says always keep c squared on the left to avoid confusion when classifying. Just makes it a little bit easier and cleaner. All right, directions. First, determine if the three sides of lengths could form a triangle. Recall, this is from previous lessons, the sum of the two smaller numbers must be greater than the third side. If yes, then we can plug the numbers in and see what type of triangle it is. All right, so first, number 1, is 3 and 7 bigger than 9? Yep, so yes, we have a triangle. Remember, guys, the biggest piece is always the C. So if I set it up, 9 squared, how does that compare with 3 squared plus 7 squared? 9 squared comes out to be 81. 3 squared plus 7 squared is 58. So C is bigger. That makes it obtuse. Number 2. 20 plus 21 is bigger than 29. So yes, we have a triangle. Biggest piece is your C. 29 squared compared with 20 squared plus 21 squared. 29 squared is 841. Type that in, it also comes out to be 841. So these are equal. If they are equal, that makes it a right. Number 3, 4 plus 11 is not bigger than 16. That only gives me 15. So this is not a triangle. Number 4, 17 plus 17 is bigger than 22. That's your C, so yes, we have a triangle. 22 squared, how does that compare with 17 squared plus 17 squared? 22 squared is 484. 17 squared plus 17 squared is 578. This time your C is smaller. That makes it an acute. Number 5, 18 plus 24 is bigger than 30, which is your C. So 30 squared compared with 18 squared plus 24 squared. 30 squared is 900. If you type that stuff in, you also get 900. So these are equal, which makes it a right. 8 plus 15 is 23. 23 is not bigger than 23, so this is not a triangle. Last 2. Those 2 add up are bigger than 39, which is your C. 39 squared, compare with 31 squared plus 35 squared. 39 squared is 1521. The other side adds up to 2186, so C is smaller, which makes it acute. 11 plus 19 is bigger than 28, which is your C. Set up. 28 squared. Compare with 11 squared plus 19 squared. 28 squared comes out to be 482. I'm sorry, 784. 11 squared plus 19 squared comes out to be 482. C is bigger. That makes it an obtuse. That's it for Pythagorean theorem.